And this last Sunday, you visited the same mass that I go to.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't invite you.
Right.
I've thought about inviting you, but I wasn't 100% sure if you would be interested or not, so I never did.
Okay.
I don't like to bother people.
Right.
But oh my gosh, so I go there. I wasn't really feeling all that well that day, so I wasn't 100% sure if I should go.
Right.
And maybe I was like getting sick or something. I'm mindful of that stuff.
At one time he was gonna go, and then he wasn't, and then he was.
Yeah.
So last minute, I'm like, I'm going. I'm out of here.
I'm
Okay.
just gonna push myself to go. You know?
And I normally don't get into the confession line right away.
Okay.
I usually sit down and I wait until the gospel reading or the sermon or something, and then I get up and stand back there, because usually there's less people and I'm not standing as long.
Okay.
You know, so I, for whatever reason, I get into line for the first time, you know, in a long time, right away, right away, and you're just standing there. I'm like, you look very familiar to me, but my brain wouldn't allow me to go there because it was completely out of context. Like,
right?
No, he wouldn't be here. Like, that can't be him. You know, that's why I asked. Like,
yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I thought, are people just waiting to get a seat or whatever? I'm just like, I'm just here to take everything in.
It turned out that you were in the line for confession.
Okay. Which you said, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because
I looked for a seat.
Yeah, because I recognized that the people who were in front of you were continued to move towards the line kept proceeding, and you weren't moving. You were just at a corner standing there, and I'm like, are you in line? You're like, for what? Yeah. You're like, what am I in line for? I'm like, this is the line for confession. He's like, oh no, I was just invited. I'm like, is your name Brandon? You know, and I'm like, hey, it's me. Yeah, you know. So you were invited, and we talked a little bit about that story. Yeah. But let me first ask this question: why did you even show up? People are invited to things all the time, you know. I mean, why?
Yeah.
Especially since you said you hadn't talked with this person for a couple of months. Do I understand that correctly?
It's probably been a little over a month, so not. I hadn't seen them before then.
Okay.
A couple months before then, and no, I was just curious to see what their church was like, you know. And that's because and there's a whole story behind that, but I'm still living right now, but. Because I had seen his shirt, and I hadn't seen these boys in, like, I don't know, golly, 2 months? And so I had seen something on his shirt that said anointed. I'm like, oh, where do you guys go to church? And then he told me about Latin Mass. It's like, well, I took Spanish for 2 years, so I didn't know I derived from Latin, but, you know, I like, is it all in Latin? He said, no, but here's a book, and you can read, you know, in English and Latin, and there's music and this and that. I said, well, I do like the music. I mean, it's probably going to be really peaceful. I could use some of that in my life right now because it's been constant noise. It seems like all, you know, so it's like I need to just, you know, go somewhere and think. So this will probably be, and then he goes, I'd love to see you there. I said, yeah, you know, maybe we can catch up and get to know each other a little bit more and, you know, talk about, you know, everything else going on. And he was telling me how he started going there. They were going to, I don't know where they were going before that, but during COVID, that was the only service that wouldn't require masks. He says masks don't work, and I said, I like this guy already. So, you know, he said, I'd love to see you there. I'm like, okay, cool. I can't turn that down. I'll see him there too, you know. It's like, well, one of these days I'm going to make it out there. So then I get there and I find out he's one of the altar boys.
Like, there are quite a few there. There really are quite a few
so it's
there.
like, okay, I'm sure I'll see him at some point after this is over. And so I'm just going to sit and wait and reflect and pray and take everything in. And it was beautiful. So
let's focus on that. So the beauty was one of the things that stood out to you. Without putting words in your mouth, or I want to share my experience. Okay. Because, you know, I had a first Latin Mass experience before you. Mm-hmm. So over the years, other than my Protestant experiences, I would go to the Novus Ordo.
Okay.
NO for short. It just basically means new order. So in like in the 1970s, the Pope approved a new order of Mass. Basically means that the structure of the prayers, the scripture reading rotations, the principal parts of the Mass and stuff. Some things were reworded, shifted, and stuff like that.
Okay.
Anyways, so my wife and I, we experienced all kinds of different Masses at different churches, especially when we moved here, because
we've been Catholic, now members of the Catholic Church, for as long as our oldest daughter is alive. And I was pregnant with her, so we've been Catholic for about 13 years or so. Yeah.
And so when we moved into this city, this diocese, we tried out all kinds of Masses.
Local ones, yeah.
Right.
One of the common themes that we continue to experience, because I think this diocese had the tendency historically to be a little more liberal. And with liberal comes redefining, restructuring, all those sorts of things, And so we experienced all kinds of liturgical abuses, and going to church was very tough. Like for me specifically, because I would recognize that priest just omitted something that's required in the Mass, or he just added something that's actually forbidden for him to actually do.
Yeah, and then it makes you wonder, what are they going to do next? Are they going to say it's okay to ordain?
And it wasn't by
right. Yes,
it wasn't by accident, because that they were being taught at seminary level what was actually supposed to be part of the Mass.
Well, I don't even want to say that. They could have been trained wrong by somebody else trying to do the same things.
Yeah. Possibly.
The way that seminary works now is different than the way it used to be. Okay. It used to be a priest would go through 4 years of philosophy before they even start theology and whatnot. Now you're lucky if they get one intro to philosophy class in their program.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff is a totally different conversation. But my point is that I was experiencing the Mass without some of the beauty. It seemed more like a 1970s kumbaya, wooden altar, everything's wood, there's a fern plant everywhere, and it was just different. The theological emphasis, everything was different.
Yeah. And
then I tried an SSPX Mass. It didn't have any of the Gregorian chant or incense or bells or anything, and I could barely hear what was going on. They didn't even have the English and the Latin, so it wasn't as accessible. But this particular Mass, I found, simply because I was looking for somewhere to go, and I was just doing internet research, and I went through a few. I ended up at, I forget where it was, but I ended up being a Sede Vacantist group.
Okay.
Now, you know what that means? Okay, so just briefly, they think that the Pope isn't a valid Pope, so they're kind of rogue, kind of doing their own independent kind of thing. And so I went there, and I realized that they were not in communion with the church per se, and so, and they didn't even have a Mass that day. I guess the priest was away for some reason. Okay. So, but then I tried, I'm going to try this one. And this is the one that you came and visited. I went once, and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was, they had the Gregorian chant, listen, the guy who runs the organ and the choir and all of that stuff, he's not paid enough. Whatever he's being paid, pay him more.
Okay,
right?
All right.
He has a very really beautiful voice, right?
Okay.
He has a very beautiful voice.
I couldn't tell who was singing, if it was him or any of the people up on the altar was singing.
They do have a choir too, but it was
mostly him.
He's very nice. Yeah.
I'm not even sure what his background is.
Probably music.
Did you remember what his first name was?
No, I do not.
He told me, but Andy, I think. Some guy from Detroit. He said he was from Detroit, which is like, oh, okay. Well, I think he said it was Andy, but I couldn't be. Don't quote me on that.
No, but he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Gregorian chant, it's so called because during the reign of Pope Gregory the Great of the 9th century, he beautified the Mass. He had people orchestrate and put together this Gregorian chant, or what was going to be the and you see this kind of chant in Eastern Rite liturgies as well, the Byzantine and the Coptic, and they all have these very vocalized and beautiful chant-like stuff in other languages and things, where the beauty of itself just, it calms you, it's peaceful, and it draws you in. It actually makes the space feel sacred.
Yeah.
For me, that's huge. You talked about architecture as well, right? What was about the architecture that was different? Because you brought that up, so I thought maybe it was something.
It wasn't really different. I've seen it before, like in St. Patrick's, but it's like I don't visit these places often, so it's like
But you wouldn't see that in a Protestant church of any sort, most likely.
No.
That's
the thing about these. No. It's like tourist attractions. That's.
There's a lot of artwork. It's very beautiful, very beautiful stuff.
So when you don't get an opportunity, or when you don't get the chance, or when you're not thinking about going to visit a place like that, and you finally get the time and the chance to do it, it's
sure.
Yeah, it's different.
It very much is.
And it's like, and I'm an artist, so it's like.
You just find yourself just sitting there
lost.
Staring and looking around, lost. Yes.
It's like I forget it. I'm in second.
If you look up above the pews, you'll notice that the 12 apostles are above you, and there's a spot there where we sit, where he sits, at different masses, and you can look and you can see the certain ones, and a lot of times I find myself right up in the front circle. There's the Holy Family, and I find myself looking at that particular picture a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the one in that particular church that I spent a lot of time looking at. Not just because it's in the middle,
right?
But that's just
must be the colors or something in the artwork that just kind of like pulls you in.
And just the whole meaning, it is just, it's the one I go to every time I'm in that building. So yeah.
I like Christian art. So some people try to kind of demonize Christian art sometimes.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. It's like the iconoclastic attitude. It's you can't have a picture of Jesus. That's you're making an idol now. You're doing this, that, right? Yeah, so you look through all that stuff, but see, I some of the early experiences I had. So that was the attitude of some of the people.
Wow.
So when
I have a picture of my family. Am I idolizing the family?
right.
Can't I have a picture of the Holy Family in my living room, which we do?
Yeah.
It's not. I'm not going to sit there and idolize it.
Right.
I'm not trying to down the whole importance of the family, of the Holy Family either.
Right.
But if I'm going to have pictures of my family, I could have pictures of the Holy Family.
Yeah.
And not feel like I'm idolizing. That's what it is when you walk into the church.
Yeah.
There are pictures of your saints in the Holy Family.
Yeah.
I mean, those that make up the church.
Yeah. Well, thankfully nobody I know has felt that way or said
some people think that though.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I had this experience. One of the first Nazarene churches I went to, the sanctuary area was very bare.
Okay.
The only thing that was in the room was empty wooden cross. Christ was on everything. It was just, and it was slightly illuminated.
Okay.
Right, it was the only thing. But I remember standing in the front pew, worshiping, and I started dialoguing with myself about whether or not I can have a depiction of Christ in my mind while I'm worshiping. If that wasn't some sort of idol that I was creating for myself in my own mind, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's unfortunate that I was exposed to some of those things, because that actually gave me a conflict in the midst of worship, whether or not this was something that I actually do. And then a few ideas really opened my mind to it. One was, sometimes people have a hard time with the crucifix. They'll say, like, well, Jesus isn't on the cross anymore. You know, he's in heaven and whatnot. I'm like, but these are the same people have Jesus in the manger on Christmas time on the church.
I didn't think about that.
Front lawn, right? Like, hey, he's not in a manger.
I've heard that, but they have the
Yes.
And again, it's like, well, we're not saying that. You know, we're not glorifying him. No. It's just a symbol. I've always seen it just a symbol. Whether he's on the cross or whether he's not on the cross, it's a cross, and it represents him. It represents truth. So,
so as an artist, you would appreciate this other insight I had too.
Okay.
And that was when you and we sit and we read the gospel and we read the Passion and we get to Christ and the crucifix. Are we not imagining? Within our mind, there's a depiction
multiple times.
There's a picture in our mind of the details
what's going
of
on.
what's
the movies
going
didn't
on.
even touch, you know.
Sure, yeah, and so we're pulling this together in our imagination, and we have this image in our mind, and I'm like, what is the difference between a literary medium for expressing the truth of God? There's so many avenues or beautiful ways in which the truth of God can be expressed. Mm-hmm. And this right here is as much as a depiction of that gospel reading, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, even when people were more illiterate, all the stained glass windows, they purposely depicted biblical events because this was the gospel for the illiterate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They have these pictures
telling stories.
Yeah. So I mean, Christian art, iconography has a long usage
among the Stations of the Cross. The Stations of the Cross are on the walls of our church. Different points in that in that road. And that is very, very powerful. Yeah.
You had asked me, I don't know if I fully answered, but you had asked me, why I ended up going.
Oh yeah.
So there's a story behind that too. One of them being that this whole year has been kind of one of them years that's just. I need to make some changes somewhere, because I was in a funk for much of the year, My grandma had passed early on, and I was actually better after she had passed, because before then, around this time last year, I was like, touch and go. It's like, is she gonna make it? Is she, am I gonna get a chance to say goodbye? And all this other stuff was going on while, trying to get through the holidays, and it was just like warfare, And so when that time came, I was like. Relief. It was total relief, and I was just like, she's back to her old self again. And she had dementia for like 5 years, and just really fought it well. 89 years old she did, and just a sweet lady. They all loved her at the home. And she didn't look like she aged much at all until about 2 years before, 2 days before she had passed, and then you started seeing it. Just no more beauty. The beauty was fading quick, and I mean, she was like getting disfigured, and it's like. She was like that the day before. It was just weird. It's really wild. But I don't know if that put me in a funk or something. But I was just in a funk for a lot of the year, and I said, "What is wrong? Why am I in this funk?" I was frustrated all the time, and just for not just impatient and just anxious and just wrought up. Easily, and all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, what is wrong? Something is missing in my life, or something is not right. So we do an inventory of all the stuff in your life that check this box. Is this here? Am I doing this right? And I got this, and I got to the point where I said, okay, how is church? What about church? How is that looking? I wasn't looking so. I wasn't looking so well. I just was not growing at the church that I've been at. I'm still at, but not too much longer. And I remember being frustrated that we weren't growing. Mm-hmm. Now I know numbers aren't everything, but we just weren't getting anywhere. You know, I joined shortly before COVID hit, and because the church I was at before that was very busy, and so people were coming and going all the time, and I was there for 9 years. It was, you know, I learned a lot there, but I got into a point in my life where I was like, okay, I hadn't been without a close-knit community of people, and I miss having that. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, I want to go somewhere where it's not busy. I want to go where I can at least relax and just, you know, have a good time and just, you know, just not be rushing all the time and doing this thing and working all the time. It's just like work, you know. Church is supposed to be fun, and it just wasn't fun anymore. For much of the time it wasn't. And so this church that I went to shortly before COVID hit, I thought, you know, it had what I was looking for. You know, the spirit was still strong there. It still was moving pretty, you know, freely, and, you know, it was a nice close-knit group of people that I thought, you know, was like, hey, this is pretty cool. I was at home after the first day I was there. I was at home. And then once COVID hit, it all just people just kind of wigged out and flaked out and spazzed out and just didn't come back, or, you know, the ones who were there just weren't there. It was just weird. I mean, it just quickly, and then we had a lot of people coming, but not a lot of people stayed. And we couldn't figure out, why isn't anybody coming? Nobody wants to come here, you know? It's like, and so in the spring, I sat down with the leadership, someone, you know, the pastor and his son, and I got to tell him, you know, it's like, this has been bugging me, you know, we can't pull people off the street and bring them in. So it's like, we don't know what, and they're just like, well, we're just believing. And we talked about different things that I wanted to do there with ministry, and, you know, just different ideas that I had. And I said, okay, we'll wait and see if anything happens. And another month went by. Nothing was happening. I was like, and I just kind of just forgot about it, you know. Well, when I got my job at Costco, I think that's when things started becoming, you know, I got the aha moment, because, you know, it's a big place. If you've been there, it's, you know, it's a big place. It's a busy place. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all kinds of people come through there every day. And for my job, I'm a food product demo. Yeah. It's mostly food, but we do other products too. But, you know, when you're demoing products, you're standing there for a good part of, you know, your shift. And so you get to watch a lot of people come to you, and they come through, and so after about maybe a month or two of being there and doing that, and, you know, people watching like I haven't done in a while, you start thinking stuff. You start wondering things, like, and for me it was like, you know, I wonder where all these people are from, and if they go, any of them go to church, what are their churches like? You know, are their churches, you know, do they have a close knit? Do they feel like their church is closely knit in the community? What is that like? And then I was like, I haven't experienced that in quite a few years. I'm bothered by that. Mm-hmm. And so after about another month of being there, I started, you know, chatting with people and stuff. And so maybe about mid-summer, end of summer, I started asking people if they go to church anywhere. Because I was just, at that point, I knew that I needed to start making the transition and start looking at other churches. And it's like, well, here we go again, you know. It's like, I just got here, and here I am doing it. It's like, I hate it, you know, but it's like, I gotta do it. So, you know, and this kid was here with his brothers. It was the second or third time he had come to my station, and that's when I asked him, you know, when I saw his shirt, that's when the topic came about. And I hadn't been to a Catholic church in years, service in a Catholic church in years, but I'm at the point in my life now where I don't know if it's a season or if it's just going to be like this from now until the end of my time here. You know, I really need to want to start connecting with different people, different Christians, because I'm noticing over the years, I've noticed that the spirit in different Christians is, you know, different Christians have different spirits depending on their upbringing and their church. I noticed that Catholics, and it may be true of others, but Catholics, they tend to be more, they're not so much in a hurry. They're more open, they're more giving. I used to go to Thanksgiving dinners at St. Bridget's. A friend of mine, we would go there for different, some years we'd go there for Thanksgiving dinner because they would put that on every year. And that was the church that she went to when she moved to Michigan back in the 70s. And so we noticed that the people there were just different from the people that we were used to being around, because we were, you know, around a lot of Protestants, and they just weren't. And one thing that she said is that, you know, in the Catholic Church, everybody is, I think she said they're all kind of, they know more about each other. And in the Protestant Church, everybody just kind of keeps to themselves. Or it was the other way around. I don't remember, but in any case, we noticed that there was a difference in spirit, because at every time we would go to these things, these functions, these Thanksgiving functions, we just noticed that the spirit was different. They were very giving. They were very humble. We weren't used to seeing a lot of that. People that we were around. I mean, we had kids that were serving us, and it's like just even the way they weren't like distracted or anything. They were just like, they were happy to serve us, and it's like, and again, this is going back years, you know, and I'm like,
they had great pride in doing it.
They did,
also.
and yes. so it didn't bug me a lot going forward, but it's just, I kept it in the back of my mind. It's like, something's not right here, you know, because even though we were not, or I wasn't raised doing a lot of ritual, something about Catholics that are just different from Protestants. They just seem to be more overall more loving, and that it I don't know.
It's hard to put into words.
It's hard to put into words. And
you know, the two of us, when we entered our first Catholic church mass, there was just something different, and for me, I had a hard time putting it into words also.
Yeah.
And I know the feeling, and I know what you're talking about. I don't know if he'd probably be more analytical and more outward with his words, probably be able to tell you exactly, but it is definitely a real thing you're speaking of.
And that's not true of all of them, because I think it has a lot to do with the size of the church too. But
it's still different.
It's still different. And when I went there Sunday, I noticed it. I wasn't surprised, but it's like, here we go again. Yeah. You know, and just this kid, he's got to be like 16 now. You know, he's just, his whole demeanor was like, you know, he wasn't like most teenagers.
Very mature.
Yeah, he was just very, you know, like he really genuinely wanted me to see me there. Yeah. But it was funny, you know, toward the end, after everything was, you know, clearing out, and I'm just sitting there, you know, reflecting, and then I'm making my way out to the foyer. Everybody else is either, I don't know what they're doing. I didn't ask what was going on because I was just too busy enjoying the whole. I had a party to get to, but I just didn't want to go. I wasn't ready to leave yet. I was like, I'm just taking all this in. It's like listening to all the banter and everything, and they're all waiting for something. I was like, either they're waiting for people to come out, or it's like, I'm just going to stand here and mix and mingle a bit, and, you know, and get to know people. And so that's what eventually did happen, you know. And again, they weren't in a hurry. No, everybody was just enjoying themselves, and you know, they looked great. They all looked healthy.
Did you have any questions about the Mass that when you left? Did you feel like you were confused or had questions that needed to be answered that you didn't get answers to yet?
Let me think.
I mean, sometimes coming in, you may have a lot of confusion or questions or clarifications or anything.
No, not really. I just took it all as ritual. This is what they do, and you know, like, and I just kind of followed, like, you know, going into the aisle and doing the curtsy, or I think it's a curtsy.
Genuflect.
The what?
Genuflect.
Genuflect. Yeah. So I just, you know, I've like.
I know he sat next to you and is helping you along with the Mass and stuff, and that it was very nice.
Yeah. And so I was just like, you know, it was a time of learning. And it's like, you know, I want to see what this event's like, what this is like, since I was invited, and it's like I need a break from the usual noise, because all it's been is, for me, it's just a lot of noise, and you know.
Sometimes change is good, you know.
And so this was, you know, and I need to reflect more. I need time to, you know, just to sit and pray and reflect. And again, reflect and just go at a slower pace. And so this helped me to do that. And again, I felt like I was in some other town or something, you know, like I was thinking England. It felt like I was in England, somewhere in Europe or somewhere. Like, I didn't feel like I was in Saginaw. No. And I love that. It's like, that's what it reminded me of. Some church in England or something. It's like, wow, it's like So at the end, you know, people start introducing themselves, and we're finding out, you know, these people are visiting from out of state and whatever, and we're talking, you know, just shooting the breeze, you know, and people are introducing me to their kids, and, you know, this is so-and-so, and this is, and then they said, you know, how'd you come here? And I was telling them how I got invited here, and we were trying to look for the kid, but I said, oh, he's that one right there that's taking the thing off the thing, and they're like, oh, we don't know where he's going, or I think that's him, or I don't know who that is. So we were having to. And I said, well, is he coming out this way, or where do they usually go? And they said, well, they go this way or they go that way. We just never know. And it's like, okay, well, we'll sit and wait till they come out this way, you know. And in the meantime, you know, I'm getting to know more people. And then this one lady was telling me about the communion, you know, and why, you know, people who aren't Catholic can't take communion. And it's like, well, I'm not worried about that, because, you know, if this is one of those churches that everybody shares the chalice.
We're not. We haven't got back to that yet.
Oh, we have.
No, not since COVID.
Not since COVID. Well, that's good.
Well, at the Latin Mass you won't, because it follows the rubrics of the 1962 Missal.
Now the other masses, yes, but we haven't gotten back to that yet.
Yeah. Well, even before COVID, I wouldn't have.
No, and you know what? That's okay. You don't have to. I didn't either.
Okay.
Okay.
One thing I didn't know if he ever told you is that the readings that you listened to, and the readings that were being presented, wasn't just the readings for that particular Mass, at that particular parish, at that particular time.
Yeah, I read about that.
Those are being read around the world on that same, at the same time, you know, not at the same time, but that same weekend, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
We're all reflecting on the Word of God at the same time, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not whatever that pastor or preacher has for the, homily might be a little different, but it's reflecting on the readings of the day.
Right.
So, you know, a whole sermon that you have maybe at a Protestant church might be completely different readings they would have read to come up with their sermon. Could be different from church to church, and that's not the case in the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
They all go by like a plan, or somebody gives them a plan, and they all go by that type.
It's called the liturgical calendar.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. So, like right now we're in Advent.
Yep.
So we have 4 weeks of Advent.
Yep.
You know, some churches, Protestant churches, are aware because they do the same kind of 4 candle things. So some do, some don't.
The one that I might be joining actually does.
Oh, they do.
And it'd be the first one for me. Because the ones before that, they may have touched on it, but they didn't really get into it.
Okay.
And I'm like, maybe they should. Just, you know, the reflection is always helpful. I don't know. It just it changes people's mindsets, changes their attitudes, it changes their everything, seems like. So this was the first year that I actually heard much more about it. And I'm like, and I happened to be there because I couldn't stay for the whole service, but it's like they were lighting the candle, and it's like I think I can get into this. You know, I don't know why a lot of other Protestant churches don't do that. Because I heard of it, I knew that it was a thing, but I thought it was just a thing with Catholics. Oh no, this Protestant church does it. And it's like, huh.
Well, all those churches were derived from original church, the first true church, you know.
Yeah.
And some things were, you know, may have came along with it. It may have been something they took it away and brought back. You don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I personally, from where I'm at, I kind of got to the place where the things that I loved the best ended up being the Catholic things. And so if I do visit anywhere, it's like, oh, I could see some Catholic elements, but the rest is just whitewashed, or it doesn't include it, or you know, or
it's missing some things.
Yeah, it just feels like it's missing stuff now. You know, but like, I know that the term ritual sometimes comes up, and for some people they have a really hard time with that. Like the term has like a negative connotation for them.
Okay.
When I was at Nazarene Bible College working the online department, there was a girl there that she asked where I was going, and I said I was going to the Catholic Church. She's like, "Isn't there a lot of ritual there?" You know, like it was asked as if ritual is some sort of pejorative, right?
Okay.
But I'm like, what? You mean the liturgy? You know, I mean, if you go to a Protestant church, you're starting with an opening song, you know, and then you're having a like 15, 20 minutes of we're going to stand and sing, you know, and it's structured. Yeah. If you go there long enough.
And that's, even that is I've had issues with, because it's like, it's like, why is everything this? Yeah.
But it's all structured, you know, like the Catholic Church is structured, you know, and it's like, really, this doesn't have to be a negative thing. This rituals you're talking of, it doesn't have to be a negative thing. Right. You know?
I like when Jesus stood in the synagogue, and he unrolled the scroll and he started reading, and then he unrolled it up and sits down and says, you know, this passage has been fulfilled in your presence today. You know, he was participating in the synagogue of his time, like Jews were doing. He was participating in the liturgy of the synagogue, and in the upper the room where, you know, Jesus institutes the Eucharist, he says, "Do this in remembrance of me." He's telling us to do this thing, right? You know, that we're going to do over and over and over again, right? But I've had, like in the Church of the Nazarene where we were, it was only required that every 3 months, once a quarter, that we would have a communion service. Okay. Right? And so one of the attitudes was, well, if we do it every Sunday, won't it lose its meaning? And I'm like, no, it has an inherent meaning.
Right. Because there's different people there every week anyway, and it's like...
Well, there's that too.
There's that too. You're right.
There's that too. And one thing that I find to be a unique characteristic of the Catholic liturgy, particularly the Latin Mass, is that it's... If you had a spectrum, and on one side you had seeker sensitive, right? On one side. On the other side is where the Latin Mass is. Okay. It's one of those you enter in, you sit, and you absorb. Yep. You reflect. It's much more intellectual, cerebral, but it's more artistic. It's more... listening and beauty. That's why everything in the Mass appeals to your senses, because it's trying to draw you up.
Yeah, I kind of figure that.
And what's neat is that even if you went there with a bad attitude and whatnot, you're not drawing yourself up. You're not preparing yourself. Right. You're actually being drawn. All your senses are being drawn by all the elements that are there. You can
so
smell.
even if you're in a bad mood, you sit there for long enough, you're definitely going to feel that you're calming, that you're actually getting into just being part of the surrounding of the building and such.
And that's
there.
But you keep talking.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, you can't have a bad. I mean, and it's not like you're there to have loads and loads and loads of fun, but not like that. But you find yourself being drawn into it and calmed and relaxed, and you're there with the cat. Hello. Well, there goes the Bible. So, it just, the cat is crazy. But yeah, definitely, you can't really go in there with a bad attitude for very long,
Right.
No cats allowed, right?
And again, that could be why everybody was, I should say nobody there was in a hurry. It got to be somewhere. That was, it's like...
it was a reverent thing.
Yeah, and it's like, this is church. Why are we in such a hurry to leave all the time?
I was going to ask you regarding that issue. Is like, as soon as we were done, did you notice like 99% of the people didn't even get up?
Yeah.
They all pulled the kneelers down
and they
started praying and they stayed.
Yeah. Or they walked out very slowly. But after about, 20 minutes?
Yeah, they
didn't start up conversations. They were very reverent to Lord, but also to each other, that knowing that those people were there, still praying and everything.
Right.
So, but it doesn't have to be a sound like, you just have to be like grumpy about it. No, those people went with a lifted heart, but went out quietly, reverently. Yeah.
It's fascinating to me that after an hour and a half of deep contemplative prayer and focus, the first thing they want to do is pray.
Yeah.
As soon as it's over,
Yeah. That's what I did.
It's kind of mind-boggling, but it happens like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the culture there. In fact, half of those people that you saw were already there 30 minutes before Mass began.
Yeah. I saw that.
Okay,
Because I was kind of coming in right before it started, so.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. We do the Rosary, the St. Michael Prayer, all that stuff as a community before Mass begins, and then when Mass is done, it's time to pray. We're going to do our after Mass prayers, and then everybody is very, as she said, very polite. This is the space for prayer.
Right.
Once we get out in the foyer area, then we'll have our dialogues. We'll go down to the potluck or whatnot, and then we'll have our fellowship and stuff there.
Right. But not in the.
But right here, people are. It's a quiet space.
Yeah.
It's a quiet space.
But again, the people, it's just everybody. They were glowing. Everybody was glowing. Everybody was. Everybody. And it's like, even when I overheard some conversation about somebody was dealing with some issue, but they weren't like, wrought up over it. And you see that in a lot of the Protestant church, I have anyway, and not that people were being fake about it, but it's a different spirit. Nobody was brought up or in a hurry, or they just were not in a hurry. I think that was what made them, the spirit was different, because they weren't in a hurry.
I think
or distracted. That's the word. Distracted.
I think another thing too is, and this isn't true of all churches, but there's a sense of we have to constantly keep the people's attention in the service. We have to constantly be doing a song, and we have like this rock group up there with a band. It depends on, like I said, different churches will have different cultures, and depending on those cultures, some cultures draw certain personalities, and then those personalities end up becoming like the core relationships of the church. They become like the relational leaders and impacting things, but the constant attention One thing I like about the Mass, anyways, is that it isn't a guitar solo that makes it so you can't focus on anything else but the guitar solo because he's rocking it out,
right,
with the guy in the drums.
That was another thing I was going to say about it, dude. It's like I'm tired of hearing, I need a break from guitars and drums and
sure.
I need a break. Yeah. That's the reason I was there, because it's like I just need a break.
Can I talk to you for 2 seconds?
Me?
Yes, 2 seconds. Go ahead and mute the mic, please.
So with the Mass, it's not it demands your attention. It woos your attention.
Yeah.
It's a subtle drawing, and there are layers of things that are going on at times too, because there are times when the priest is praying something, and like I shared, like right now the priest is praying this. But the choir is singing something different.
Okay.
They're praying the secret or the intuit or the post communion verse or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the prayers and readings too.
Can I mention something? I might miss this. The fact that the priest is not even facing the people. What did you think about that?
Oh, that fits my point.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. I saw times that he wasn't, but I was looking at
a lot of it he's not.
A lot of it he's not.
A lot of it he's not. I didn't know if you understood that.
We're facing.
I just figured he was praying.
And the Latin Mass is different from the other masses, and who they're facing, and at what times of the Mass. And I didn't know if you ever noticed that. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I just figured he was praying, and it's like
Well, that's exactly what he's doing.
I'm okay with that.
That's exactly what he's doing.
They do, It's like
they're not putting on a show for you,
right?
So when the priest lifts up the host of the chalice, or the host specifically, and the bells ring, right. And then the church bells chime, and we're all praying, my Lord and my God.
Right.
When this happens, he's not presenting the host to us.
Right.
He's not on display.
We just happen to be there seeing it.
We're all facing the east, and along with him. But in the other masses, he actually got turned around, and now they face the congregation.
Oh, okay.
But in the Latin masses, they're still face the east.
Yeah, so it's a different orientation. So it's called ad orientem, when we're all facing the east together. We're all praying to God. God's the focal point.
Right.
So there isn't this show that's going on that becomes the focal point of what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's rather...
It's not for us.
Right. And again, that's not true in all.
Right.
That's right.
I mean, it shouldn't be, and they even tell us, we're not up here to put on a show. This is about God.
Worship.
Yeah, this is about God. We don't care. This isn't about talent. So it's like, get off us. Get your mind off of us.
It might be nice music, but and we can admire the beauty in it.
Right.
But really, ultimately, it goes back to what they're worshiping.
It's supposed to draw people in.
It is, and in many different art forms and so on and so forth, that we can worship the Lord.
Right.
So overall, you had a good experience.
I did.
That's cool. That's good.
I ended up staying longer than I afterwards.
Originally had planned, probably.
Because I had a party to get to, and I'm like, this party can wait. Because it's like, I'm kind of having one here in the foyer. It's like, I was there for probably, half an hour, maybe longer. Yeah, maybe.
Not because you felt you had to. It's just you wanted to, and you just chose to.
I had planned on leaving afterwards. If I said, I can't catch him and say I'm there, I'll just wait till another time. But it's rush. Like, you know what? I think I'm gonna stayed.
There was something there that still intrigued you, I think.
Yeah. And just I needed to be in that atmosphere of people just enjoying themselves.
Felt good to be calm.
Yeah, and people were, like I said, people were laughing, and it's like, I don't know any of these people, but I like the spot. I want to stay in the spot until everybody's going. It's like the party can wait.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, I meant, obviously, you said that you were planning to come for the potluck next month?
Yeah.
Potluck?
He said the 8th.
Yeah, I think
unless something changes, he said it's on the 8th.
Okay. I haven't been to one of the potlucks yet, so I'm going to plan to be there. And
yeah.
Try to.
I've been to a lot of different ones, but not a Catholic one. So.
Yeah.
Well, like a lot of the Protestant churches, we still like to eat.
Okay.
We're definitely not stingy about. I mean, not to gluttony, no, mind you,
Oh,
but we still like good
still
food.
Yeah.
And
that's what this one lady was telling me. She was saying, what was she saying? Oh, we may be Catholic, but we like to have fun. We don't, I said, well, I never thought you did.
No, Catholics definitely like to have good fun. Good fun. Yes, very much.
There's always a wholesome way of doing things, not so wholesome.
And we don't have to be killjoys in trying either, because it just comes naturally.
Right, right. I noticed, and I also like how they're big on family, and I don't mean just growing the family, the nuclear family. I mean they like.
Even though we're stereotypical for having larger families, I get what you're saying.
They treat you like family.
Yes.
There was like this whole. I felt like I was,
a
becoming part
unit.
becoming part of somebody's family.
Yeah.
It's like they want to get to know you. They want you to feel part of, and you don't see that in some Protestant churches. Again, it depends on the church, but
right. Yeah, there might be some Catholic churches you want to see that.
And that's
because of the culture.
That's true.
Mm.
Yeah. The personality of the priest, the demographics of the people who are there.
Depending if there are a lot of older congregations. There's a lot of newer, younger ones and stuff, and it really just depends.
This one's a nice mix of people, and I
like
that.
Latin Mass is a very nice size. It's got a lot of big mix of many different generations in that particular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to come every week, sir, because last week you missed it. An autistic son ran straight down the aisle and almost attacked the priest.
Oh,
you don't know what's going to be happening
Did that really
there.
happen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It was yeah. See, it was the weirdest thing because I was standing in the back.
Yeah.
And I heard. Well, I knew there were some disabled children in the congregation.
And
so
we're aware of it because we have one of our own.
Right.
I heard this, what sounded like a demonic screech.
Uh-oh.
I didn't even bother to turn around. For whatever reason, I'm like, oh, it's just one of the kids. I got so I didn't even bother.
Right.
And then literally 10 seconds later, the same kid
a teenager,
darted.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, he was an autistic teenager. Darted straight down the aisle. And got within an inch of the priest, and this guy finally got him.
His dad or whatever.
Was he tall?
Because
I
he
didn't
was
meet
tallish.
one.
He was a little taller than mine.
That's the one I met.
He's not verbal.
Was he smiling?
He smiles a lot.
That's the one. That's the one I met.
Yeah. That's the one that almost tackled the priest.
Oh my goodness! I can't see him doing that.
Well, he's really happy, but I think what happened.
But this is like a one in a lifetime thing. But it seems to be.
Okay.
I think what had happened. It was just after the the sprinkling, right? The asperges, and so. I think that maybe he got hit in the eye with the holy water or something.
Maybe he just had one of those.
It caught him off guard, and he just wigged out, and he thought he was being attacked or something.
Oh, wow.
But you don't know.
That's my theory.
Okay.
I mean, if it would have been our son, we could have had many theories of what really would have happened.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we don't necessarily take him. But
right.
He wouldn't make it 5 minutes sitting there.
No, but wow.
But yeah.
So you never know what you're gonna find.
Okay.
But you don't have to wait till January 6th. I'm there every Sunday.
Didn't turn around because we're used to things like that. A little bit more coming from a family with a severely autistic child.
Yeah.
But no, all of a sudden he just said he just heard something, and all of a sudden he just saw this kid running down.
See, I get I've had a little bit of experience working with people with autism, but not that high on the spectrum.
Sure.
Because so I'm far from an expert,
yeah.
Honestly, but I did learn some things doing that. I did it for 2 years,
and we're not laughing at the boy.
No, next time I'm turning around and
maybe
get ready to tackle.
That's it's not that we don't think father needed to be tackled today.
Well,
but,
I mean, you can't help but laugh at it because it's like it's like he wasn't trying to be funny. He can't help it.
No,
But
the first thing out of my mouth when the father or huge guy that finally
good
got
save.
him, I was like, yeah, good save. Yeah.
So was he really having to tackle him? Is that what
he was on the way he said he was on a full sprint to go
yeah. If this kid would not have been grabbed, he would have been all over that priest.
Wow.
Yeah, and the fact is, the priest was facing the other way. He would probably never even knew what hit him. And somebody could have got hurt. And that would have been terrible.
It was a blessing that he was.
It was a blessing. That
Well,
the
mom introduced herself to me, and I felt her pain at that. It's like, oh, she's got an autistic kid. He's probably autistic, and I was right. He was autistic, and I just felt for her. I said, Lord be with her, and that's gotta be her.
Yeah, and we definitely know what the struggles.
I can just see it all. It was all over her face, and you can tell it weighs on her.
It's draining. It's very draining.
And at that moment she was quite drained. I can tell.
Because when they start getting larger and older and bigger, it's harder to physically keep them from wanting to tackle the priest.
Well, and this was the first Sunday after that. So maybe she was worried about how Mass was going to go today.
Oh,
okay. How it was going to go.
Well, he was bugging her about wanting to go to the restaurant. He said, yeah, any excuse that he wants to go to a restaurant. I said, yeah, that sounds like the autistic person I worked with.
Well, that sounds like our son. He has to eat. He loves food.
But home cooked meals or restaurant? Because this one is about the restaurant.
Oh, yes.
He wanted to go to a restaurant.
Oh, well, a restaurant equals food, Yeah. Oh, no. We definitely have a lot of heart for those. Because, like I said, we deal with it in our own family.
Right.
But, yeah. It's something to chuckle about, but also be very thankful no one got hurt.
Yeah. So. I never watch myself around.
I definitely am not looking forward to times like that with our son.
No.
When he gets a little bit older and a lot more powerful than he is now, which he's still quite. So.
Yeah.
I mean, golly.
I know.
We won't tell our viewers what he did to you last time you were here. I'm still so sorry about your shoes.
Actually, they were already torn.
That's what you had said. But I still felt bad. I told him, I said, I don't think he's ever coming back to visit us again. I think our son has ruined it for you.
Oh, no. And I thought about that afterwards, and I said, oh, these people are great. It's just like, and I actually wanted to come back. And then by the time I thought about it, COVID hit. I said, well, am I going to ever go back there again?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we are in the same place. We don't plan on leaving anytime soon. It was such a hassle to move, and find the right place for us. I think we're going to be here a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's bugging you? You look, or are you just tired?
No, I'm just listening.
Oh,
just listening.
Yeah. There's a blank stare in my face. Is that it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's something's burdening you or you just...
No, he's a very deep thinker.
No, I'm just listening.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually analyzing the ups and downs of the conversation to know when to speak and when not to speak.
Oh, okay.
I process all that.
There's some things about him I won't mention on stream, but if he hasn't talked to you about it already, which I think he has, you know why he thinks very deeply and analyzes a lot of things. So
he's told me so much I probably can't remember half of it, but I do remember the highlights. The highlights.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm there every Sunday. So anytime you want to sit and absorb, we can come sit next to him.
It's rarely ever does he miss. He makes it. We make it a point to go.
And you know who? And he also said it too. He said, "Oh, that's the part I didn't get to." So this was kind of embarrassing for me. All that, and then he comes out finally. Toward the end, everyone's leaving. And I said, "Hey, you remember me?" And he said, "No." He looks scared. I'm like, it's Costco? He says, "Oh yeah."
Oh.
It's like,
he invited you.
Him and the kid next to him, they looked freaked out, and I said, I'm not trying to freak anybody. I hope they weren't freaked out. They looked freaked out.
Hey, you invited me here.
Like, you forgot, right?
That's the
That's okay. I'm here, and it was very nice.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, even if you don't remember me.
So it's like I was telling everybody, one of the altar boys. I didn't get his name at the store.
No.
And so I finally got it, and he's got, he was telling me about his family and all, people from different parts of the country that I'm familiar with. And it's like, he said, well, next time, if you come next time, let me know, or, if I said, are you always in the altar line? I think he said, no, he's not, but he said, I can help you next time. Or it's like, well, cool, I got 2 people now. So it's like,
Well, the question is how many altar boys were there this week? There's usually at least about a dozen that stand.
It looked like there were probably 15.
Yeah. There's usually like 8 or 12 or more. Yeah, there's quite a few.
I've never seen anything like it.
Really?
No,
yeah, it's amazing.
Never.
No.
I guess they're all different.
It's very impressive, and it really is really neat to see.
I think a lot of those kids are they go to the Catholic high school.
Yeah.
And
he's homeschooled, so it's
he's homeschooled. Okay, yeah.
I said, "Damn, he's the cool kind," because I wasn't homeschooled.
Yeah, there's some pros and cons to it. You want to be homeschooled if you get cool parents.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
We're not too cool, but we have
to get out of the house.
I want to get out of the house. And I want my kids to go.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I do.